Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good evening so far. We're back with Chaos Head Noah tonight. So last time I streamed this, it was kind of a continuation of the craziness that happened in the stream before, where Takumi was basically freaking out over the whole my house isn't here thing. And after he kind of kept looking around trying to find his house but couldn't find it, Rimi dropped probably the biggest mind fuck, at least from Takumi's perspective, where she basically told him that he is a delusion, that he is not a real person. Apparently he is the delusion of another person who is supposed to be the real Takumi, I guess. But we could surmise from what she was saying, well, and this another scene that also happened in the previous stream, that the prior stream, that this real Takumi is Shogun, and the, I guess, delusion Takumi is kind of sucking the life from the real Takumi, which is Shogun, which is why Shogun is in a wheelchair and looks all decrepit and shit. And Rimi was all like, alright, you need to, like, stop having any fucking delusions, or you're gonna, like, actually kill the real Takumi / Shogun. And then she just straight up left him after that, and Takumi now sees Rimi as an enemy, which makes sense because she had been lying to him this whole time. Kind of saying, you know, I mean, she was telling him, oh, you know, this Shogun stuff is just nonsense and everything. Well, okay, she didn't specifically talk about Shogun, but I mean, obviously she was being very misleading with the delusion Takumi. So then Takumi kind of just he's like, no, I'm gonna prove that I'm real. So he tries to call, like, Misumi, but then Misumi just is all like, wait, I don't even remember, like, how long we've been friends and shit. So Misumi is acting kind of the same way that delusion Takumi is, where he can't, like, remember stuff from the past. And then he tries to call his parents, but it winds up just being a disconnected line. He had his parents' number from Nanami supposedly entering their number into his phone. And I think that was about it from the scene involving Takumi. And then we switched to Bon again, who is now getting pretty deep into this GE rate stuff, because now he's linked the company that makes the Garo Froggy stuff back to Nozomi, And I think he's even kind of aware now of like some of the experiments that Nozomi has been involved in. He knows the whole story with Senna and how she was in that facility where they did the experiment on her mother. So yeah, and then I think we left off after that scene. So which one of these save files? I think it's this one we want here. Okay, I think, did we go back to Takumi again? Oh no, okay, I think we're with Rimi now, it looks like. Okay, Rimi took out her phone as she walked beneath the train tracks at Shibuya Station. She'd come straight here after leaving Takumi. She picked the name labeled Nana out of her contacts and called it. Okay, that's Nanami, I'm pretty sure. The phone was picked up immediately.
私、実はちょっとした報告があります。
So we still don't really know exactly what the deal is with Nanami. I mean, obviously she's not Delusion Takumi's sister. But we don't really know in what way she's, I guess, related to Delusion Takumi. I mean, obviously they have some kind of tie to each other. Either way, oh shoot, now I forget what I was gonna say. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, Nanami is not a delusion. Rimi said as much. Nanami is a real person, so we know that, but...
ナナちゃんをこれから助けに行こうと思って。
Rimi had a good idea of who had Nanami and where she was being held. She'd been in the same position herself. It was a part of her past she wanted to forget, but if it meant saving Nanami, she was willing to face her memories. The person on the other end of the phone reacted just as she had expected. Rimi chuckled.
私って信用されてないな。平気だってば。
Both her voice and expression seemed happy, even cheerful. There was no sign of the iron will inside her. Looking at her, you'd think she was just having a normal conversation.
昔の話だしね。そもそも私の感情とナナちゃんを助けることとどっちを優先させるかなんて決まりきってることだよ。言ったでしょ。私はあなたの力になりたいって。それにタクには関わらせたくないの。
Rimi's expression clouded after she said those words.
ねえ、ちょっとだけ語っちゃっていいかな。タクにね、いろいろひどいこと言っちゃったんだ。
I don't understand why she waited till now to want to save Nanami. Like, hasn't she been in trouble for a while now?
しかもそんなことしておいてすごく自分勝手なんだけど、私彼と一緒に過ごした時間はとっても楽しかったって 思っちゃってるんだ。
Hey, Zane, how you doing?
何もかもが妄想でまみれたまやかしでしかなかったのに、学生生活もあの学校に私やタクが通ってることも、大ちんと友達だっていうことも、私がタクと一緒にいようとしたことも、タクの存在そのものも。
Reemi's pace began to slow little by little. People she didn't recognize were overtaking her from behind.
タクってどうしようもないくらい情けなくて、どうしようもないくらい弱くて、きっと普通の女だったら見向きもしないような男の子なんだよ。
Gee, thanks for that vote of confidence there, Reemi. As she spoke, her grip on her phone tightened.
なのに私の心には楽しかったっていう気持ちがあるの。なのに私の心にはもっと一緒にいたかったっていう気持ちがあるの。この気持ちって何なのかな。
Bro, the God of War stream last night. Okay, so I got to the end of the loop that you go through, the gauntlet or whatever, right? And fought Tyr, who's the final, like, boss of the loop. And I swear to God, dude, I emptied his HP, but apparently the game fucking glitched and the fight continued even with his HP bar completely empty, and then he killed me. And dude, I was so pissed, dude. Oh my god, dude. I'm about to just like, I am like this close to just like scrapping that fucking DLC and just not even bothering. But I guess I'll try it again. But I swear, if it does that shit to me again, I'm done, dude. There is no way, dude. His HP bar was completely empty, dude. And yet the fight didn't end. It kept going. So, yeah, it was total bullshit. She smiled just a little at the person on the other end of the phone.
さてと、そろそろ切るね。本当に大丈夫だって。あなたは何も心配しないで。私が全部決着をつけてくるから。ね、匠。
She was talking to fucking Shogun again. I don't know. There's still a lot of questions, though, even though we found out a bunch of things, like how Delusion Takumi is the delusion of the real Takumi, who is Shogun. I mean, like, we still don't know why Shogun even, I guess, real booted a delusion of himself to begin with. Like, why would he do that? I don't know. I'm kind of under the impression that maybe he, like, had this, like, really deep regret in his life, and he's now trying to, like, I guess maybe live his, like, live his life again vicariously through his delusion, maybe? I mean, that's like the only thing I can think of, but I don't know. I no longer had the strength to do anything. The next thing I knew, I was back at the base. I must have gotten here somehow after failing to kill myself on Yamanote Street, but I couldn't remember how. Oh yeah, he did also like run in the middle of the road, but the traffic stopped before it ran him over, so
このコンテナって誰がどうやってここまで運んだんだろう。
until now I'd never even thought about it, but now I realized just how bizarre it was. It made me feel even worse. When I closed the door, the room became pitch black. I leaned up against it, motionless. The only sounds in the quiet room were the rumbling of my computer fan and my own shallow breathing. Oh yeah, I also completed the special world in Mario Wonder, so I am now completely done with that game. You were right though. There, some of those special worlds were like crazy hard, dude. Have you um have you played any of the special world levels yet? I mean, I guess since you're like you haven't even beat the OG game yet, right? So I guess you wouldn't have. I thought that maybe in the darkness I wouldn't have to think about how ugly I was, but the opposite was true. Oh, you have played? Like how many? How many of them have you done? With the silence and the darkness surrounding me, Rimi's cruel words were echoing in my mind over and over again.
あなたは妄想の存在なんだよ。
You done 3 or 4? Okay. So I haven't done all of them. Okay. I'm trying to remember. Well, anyway. Okay. Have you done the one where you have to, like, basically wall jump on the like appearing and disappearing blocks, and the blocks keep like appearing like with the beat of this song, and the song like speeds up as you go along? Have you done that one? Even my crying sounded creepy and disgusting. I felt like I was going to vomit. I was creepy enough already. If I didn't even exist like regular people did, that was even worse. Oh god, you've done, yeah. That's the, yeah, no, not so far, dude. That is the worst one. Like, period. Seriously. There isn't one as hard as that one. Did you like beat it, or have you only just like tried it? I wanted to just disappear. I slowly walked over to the other side of the room, tripping over the garbage on the floor as I went. Oh, you did beat it? Okay. How many tries do you remember? I mean, you probably didn't keep count, but I kind of did because I looked at how many lives I had after I beat it versus how many I started with. I turned on the lights and drove away the darkness. My eyes fell on the Seraton post-awakening version figure on my desk. I grabbed it and slumped into my chair. Dude, it only took you 15 tries? Holy shit. Nah, dude, it took... Okay, so So the number of lives I had after I beat it was 48 less than the number of lives I started with. So I'm like, okay, so it took me 49 tries, but then I realized, oh, I probably got a few extra lives from collecting coins while I was doing it. So I actually probably actually took me over 50 tries to beat the damn thing. You know what screwed me up the most in that damn level? It was it was when you got to like the single block walls where it was just the little tiny wall. Like I swear I kept jumping on those things and it felt like I would time the jump to jump off of it right. And no, it didn't jump. He'd just fucking fall off, dude. He would just fall right off of it. And I'm like, holy shit, the timing for the jumping on the single block shit is so precise, it's crazy. So yeah, that was what was killing me, dude. Is those single block ones, and I just kept falling off them over and over again. Yeah, the shit took me like over 50 tries. Now, like the now I would say just on average, um, the special world levels took me maybe on average around like 15 tries to beat them. Um, Probably the most tries outside of that um, that wall jump level was like maybe 25. But yeah, the wall jump one took me way more tries than any of the other levels. So yeah, I held Seraton close to my chest. She was so small, so hard. She wasn't breathing. She wasn't speaking to me. She didn't have the warmth a 3D girl did. Okay, we'll save it here. But right now, Seraton was all I had. Rimi had left me. Nanami was missing. Senna had tried to kill me. Kazupi hadn't tried to stop her. Yua was my enemy, although not really. I mean, I would think at this point, like, after the police told Yua that they didn't even suspect Takumi as a new gen killer, I would think Yua probably doesn't have anything against Takumi at this point. But anyway, I don't know. It's been a long time since Takumi had even interacted with Yua. So. And ISA was in the hospital. These were the only girls whose names I knew, and none of them were going to do anything to help me. Reality was cruel. It didn't care about a monster like me. I gripped Seraton with shaking hands, tighter and tighter, until I thought she'd break. You know, this really is not a good visual novel for, like, some young, impressionable, like, teenager who's, like, kind of down on his luck or is not in the healthiest frame of mind to read. I could see, like, some teenager with mental problems, like, reading this and then just be, like, just being, like, completely fucked up after they read it. You know what I mean? I wanted to just disappear. But if that's what I thought, why not do something about it? I was just pretending to be the hero of my own big, sad story. Nobody would take pity on me if I just sat here feeling sorry for myself. Nobody was looking at me. Everybody had abandoned me. No, they'd never been close enough to me to abandon me. I never had any friends. I didn't even have a family. I didn't even exist.
オタクばっかり並べてる。
Fine then. Just die already. I put Seraton down and stood up from my chair. I found a roll of cord under my bed and picked it up. I made a loop in it big enough for my head to fit through, and then tied the other end tightly to the pipe that served as the edge of my bunk bed. Okay. We're gonna have to mark this fucking stream 18 plus now. Trigger warning, people. Yeah.
死んでやる。死んでやるよ。死んでやるんだからな。
There was nobody to stop me. There was nobody but me in the room, of course. The cord was tied pretty tight. I realized that dying might be easier than I thought. I stuck my head through the loop and wrapped it around my neck. The bunk bed wasn't tall enough for me to hang myself from it while standing. Yeah. But if I kicked my legs out from under me, that wouldn't matter. All I needed was the courage to do it. I gave Seraton one last glance. She was smiling at me from the desk. Oh, dude. I just thought of something, though. Since he's a delusion, can he even actually die? Like, think about it. Like, I'm not sure if delusions can actually die. You know what I mean? The only ones who were there to see me go were Seraton and the rows of wives on my shelves. I was so sad, so lonely. I felt a sniffle in the back of my nose.
さよなら。
I put my whole weight into the cord and kicked my legs out in front of me. The cord tightened around my neck. I could feel the pressure. It was biting deep into my flesh. It hurt. I realized both of my hands had their fingers at my neck, trying to loosen the tight noose. I went to bring my legs back down and stand. But then I wouldn't be able to die. If I didn't keep putting my full weight on it, I wouldn't be able to strangle myself. I decided to just endure the pain. My throat hurt. It wasn't the lack of air that hurt so much as the pain of the cord digging into my neck. Come on. Come on, die already. The pain continued. It was so painful that I couldn't even pass out. My body shook. I was spinning in circles, looking like an idiot with my legs kicking out. The pipe on the bunk bed creaked. And then my body lost its support. I fell butt first onto the floor. The pain from my pelvis made me roll around on the floor in agony. I gasped for breath. I looked up at the cord with teary eyes and saw that it had snapped in two.
なんだよそれ。なんなんだよそれは。
Why was I failing now? Sure, I was a loser. I was a failure of a human being who'd never done anything worthwhile in his entire life. Hell, I wasn't even human. But it wasn't fair that I couldn't even die. Why couldn't I die? I wanted to die. I wanted to die. After the pain I'd experienced trying to hang myself the first time, I didn't have the courage to try it again.
楽に死ぬ方法を誰か教えてよ。
Even now, I was still looking for others to help me. I was so disgusting. I made myself want to vomit. I really was just so pathetic. Hospitals empty out fast at night. Perhaps there was too much life and too much death in the daytime, and so these hours were used to restore the balance. There was no smell of life or death at this hour, only an empty silence. Yasuji Ban chuckled to himself. He was a weird guy to be thinking about these things. But it did seem especially quiet today. It wasn't even lights out yet, but the lights in the hallways were off, and there were no nurses to be seen. The second Bond set foot in the lobby, he started to have a really bad feeling. There was no real reason for it. It was just what you might call a detective's intuition. My intuition's pretty damn good too, isn't it? Maybe the strangely religious thoughts he was having were his way of trying to take his mind off the feeling. He'd taken a taxi here and called Sua several times on the way, but Sua hadn't picked up once, a fact that spoke more about his current situation than any words he could say. There was no time to waste. He had to find where in this huge hospital Sua was being held, and then rescue him. And without the kidnapper finding him either. Any kind of shoes would echo off the linoleum floor. Bon had taken off his leather boots before he'd come into the lobby. It was almost winter. He could feel the coldness of the floor through his socks, and it made him shiver. The sound of the main entrance's automatic door opening echoed through the lobby before he heard the girl calling his name. When he saw Yua Kusunoki come into the lobby, he was so stunned he couldn't speak. He quickly ran over to the girl. She had a nervous look in her eyes as she glanced around her.
おい、なんでついてきたんだ。身を隠せって言っただろうに。
すみません。でも、私、
Bon looked around for Momose, but she was nowhere to be found. Bon scratched his head. She'd come here alone.
今すぐ戻れ。これは遊びじゃねえんだぞ。
それは、分かっているつもりです。
分かってるなら帰るんだ。
Then he heard a creaking sound coming from one of the hallways connected to the lobby. The hallway was empty and dark, and in the middle of it was an empty wheelchair, slowly coming toward them. And at almost the same time, they heard the sound of someone running up the stairs.
とにかくユアちゃんは帰れ。いいな。
Bon spoke, then started to run. He raced up the stairs, following the sound of the footsteps, without bothering to wait for her answer. He was faster and more agile than you'd ever think from his usual laid-back attitude. Following the footsteps led him to the roof of the outpatient building. There was a little garden there with planters full of flowers. It was probably a place of relaxation for the patients here, but unfortunately it wasn't lit up. He couldn't tell what kind of flowers were blooming all around him. The wind was strong up on the roof. Still out of breath, he glanced quickly around him. The man whose footsteps he'd heard had definitely run up here, but then he disappeared. Had he fallen for somebody's trap? The footsteps had almost seemed like they were there to attract his attention. The only possible reason was that they wanted to lure him out here. Bon didn't have a gun on him right now. He was nervous without a weapon. He looked around to see if anything might serve as one, but came up empty-handed. He gulped and wiped the sweat on his forehead away with his fingers. One step at a time, he proceeded toward the center of the garden. There were plenty of places for a person to hide. Behind that bench or on the other side of that planter. He sharpened all his nerves. to be ready no matter where the attack came from. The center of the garden was a big circle with benches all around its outer perimeter. He looked at each one in turn, then noticed something strange on one of them. He slowly walked over to it, being careful not to let his guard down. As he got closer, it began to take shape. It was the size of a soccer ball, round and black. And there it is, the Darth Spider helmet. It was a severed human head. Bon had been involved in a few murder cases where the victims had been dismembered. It reminded him of the photos he'd seen. His bad feeling got worse and worse. The thought that it might be his partner's head filled him with rage and frustration. Bon clenched his jaw hard. He took another step toward the bench. The thing on the bench wasn't moving at all. A cold wind blew. And then he heard the gunshot. It was so fast and so sudden that he froze. He was supposed to drop to the ground and look in the direction of the sound, but he couldn't. No. Actually, there was no need to even bother anymore. He felt a burning pain in his chest and touched it with his hands. It was slick and wet. Something was pouring out of his body. He recognized the raw stench. And then a moment later, his brain recognized the pain. He'd been shot. By the time he realized, his legs had already given out. He'd fallen face first to the ground, unable to stand. Shit. Well, you were right. Something bad was about to happen. The footsteps from before were coming closer to him now. He looked up at the approaching man with vision that was already starting to blur. Oh shit, is that Sua? Did Sua shoot him? A black shadow, a gun in its hand. It was too dark to see the man's face.
ああ、
He heard a voice.
手を引けって言ったのに。
It was a voice he knew.
残念っすよ、先輩。
Mamoru Sua walked right past his older partner, whispering in a mocking tone.
スワが、お前が俺を。
そうっす。いやー、祝初発砲ってところっすか？
Okay, why though? What the fuck is this about? Sua laughed as he reached over and picked up the thing on the bench.
ちなみに先輩、やけにこれに注目してたっすけど、そんなに珍しかったんすか？ダーススパイダーのヘルメット。
Sua walked back to him and held the helmet right in front of his face.
ざまねえ。
He chuckled. He could barely even see now. His limbs felt terribly cold. There was a pain in his chest, but it wasn't unbearable. He felt an intense gaze, like somebody looking at him, but he couldn't tell if it was Sua or someone else. Realizing he had only a few minutes left to live, he forced his body to turn over. Now he was stretched out, looking up at the sky. It was cloudy, though, and he couldn't see the stars. Even if they had been out, his vision was too dark now to see them. As he coughed, he could taste the blood in his mouth.
なあ、そう。お前はバカだ。まだガキでどうしようもないくらいのバカなデカだ。だが、俺はお前のこと結構買ってた。
自分は先輩が鬱陶しくてしょうがなかったっすよ。
So, hold on. Wait. Let me think about this. I guess this in a way would explain why Bon was receiving those threatening phone calls and shit telling him to stop looking into the G-rate stuff. I think Sua is probably like a plant from the Nozomi group in the police force. They were probably using him as a way to keep tabs on what the police were doing.
まあ、気持ちはわかる。
His breathing was getting rapidly shallower. There was a wheezing sound as air fled from his throat. His vision was now totally black.
何者なんだ、お前。
That was Bond's last question before he passed out. Sua answered as he pointed the gun at him.
魔法使いっす。
バカが。
At some point, the wind had stopped. The darkness was suddenly quiet. The two silhouettes stopped moving. But that was only for a minute. Sua slowly pulled the trigger.
先輩に信仰の救いあれ。
Bro. Okay. So with Bond dead, how are we gonna find out any more shit about the Nozomi group? Like, damn, dude. Rip Bond. Yeah, what's up, amazing Rafix? How you doing? Alright, so Nightheart just put kill me a bunch of times. And now Grim has entered the chat room. Kill me, Grim. Hey, LOLOL. Nightheart, kill me. Kill me, Grim. Have you gone crazy? LOL. Nightheart, kill me, Grim. Or did your IRL girlfriend dump you? Nightheart, kill me, Grim. Let me tell you something you'll want to hear then. What could that possibly be at this point? Ugh. Nightheart, kill me. Kill me. Kill me. Grim, if you stay a virgin till age 30... Nightheart, kill me. Kill me, Grim. You learn to use magic. Nightheart, kill me. Kill me. Kill me. Grim. That's important, so don't forget it. It'll be on the test. Nightheart, kill me. Kill me. Grim. And while I'm telling you things that are important... Nightheart, kill me. Grim. Shibuya's Scramble Crossing. Hold on a sec. Okay. Nightheart, kill me. Kill me. Grim, 1 hour from now, something big is gonna go down. Nightheart, kill me. Kill me. Kill me. Grim, ROFL, cut that shit out. Nightheart, kill me. Grim, go see what's happening then. Nightheart, kill me. Kill me. Grim, you're famous. They'll all be excited to see you. Maybe somebody will kill you there? Bro, why would you tell him that? I turned off the power to the monitor and pulled my legs up onto the chair.
僕を殺してよ。誰か。
お兄ってば。
I was holding my one ally, Seraton, in my hand.
おーい、開けろ。
My hands were so sweaty that her slender torso was now sticky and disgusting. Her arms were bent at an unnatural angle, too.
こら、開けろ。
Is that a... Wait. No, that sounds more like Nanami, actually. Alrighty. Save it again here. That voice. No. How?
バカ鬼。
There was no mistaking it. Out of all the girls who visited the base, only one was the type to yell like that. Nanami was here. I was a little shocked at how little emotion this inspired in me. I just didn't care. Even if Nanami was here now, what difference did it make? It wasn't even that strange that she'd be here. Remy had just said she was going to save her, right?
開けないとひどいんだからね。
The way she was yelling was starting to annoy me. I'm a monster. Just leave me alone. Just forget about me and think about your right hand instead. Not that I even know what happened to it. I never wanted to talk to another person again.
おにー。
But she was just so annoying that I found myself getting out of the chair and heading to the door. Felt like I was taking It felt like it was taking me a long, long time to get there. That's when I realized I was afraid of seeing her. I opened the door and saw Nanami there. She started in surprise, letting out a small cry, then fell silent.
おにー。
She'd been so loud a moment ago, and now she was quiet. I didn't understand. I'd never really seen her like this. So I started to wonder, was this the real Nanami?
いるなら早く出てよ。入っていい？
I couldn't say a word. I ignored her question and went back inside and sat down on my sofa. I gripped the Seiretan figure again. I was holding it a little too tightly, and my hand hurt a little, but even that pain was a delusion. Nanami followed me into the room silently. She seemed like she didn't know what to do. Is it over? Yeah. Alright. She seemed like she didn't know what to do, so she moved a few of the magazines out of the way and crouched on the floor. She didn't say a word. Normally, this would be when she started to lecture me about something. But instead, she just crouched there, staring at the floor, depressed. I could see a bandage around her right wrist, poking out from under her sleeve. I was about to tell her that if she sat like that, I'd be able to see her panties, but I stopped. This Nanami was just a delusion. I was, too. The whole world was just a delusion taking place inside my brain. Me and everything I was seeing right now, all delusions, all fake. It didn't matter whether I could see her panties. Hell, it didn't matter if she walked through the streets of Shibuya naked. Okay, 18 plus warning again. CP. I'm just fucking. I looked away from Nanami and up at the ceiling. I started to count the rust spots there for no real reason. I didn't want Nanami to be in my field of vision. It would just make me even sadder. The silence continued. The only sound in the room was the sound of my computer fan. Nanami always used to be so annoying and loud when she came to the base. Maybe even those memories were a delusion.
ねえ、お兄。何か喋ってよ。
She sounded depressed. This wasn't the Nanami I knew, which meant she must be a delusion.
どうして何も言ってくんないの？包帯のこととか気になんないの？
I focused my mind on counting the rust spots. I didn't care. You're just a delusion. Even if you're real, you're not my problem anyway. If I'm a delusion, I'm not even really your brother.
何か言って。お願いだから。
Suddenly, I could hear the sound of rustling cloth echo quietly throughout the room. My ears were ringing. My head hurt so bad, but this was all just a delusion anyway, so I didn't care. Nanami could take off her clothes or her bandage. No matter what weird things she did, it wouldn't surprise me. I didn't care. This was a delusion. I was one too. Of course, weird stuff would happen randomly. That was how it worked.
ほら、見てよ。
I didn't look. I was scared to look.
青あざ、だいぶ消えてくれたな。最初はすごく腫れてたんだよ。バスケしてて転んで打撲したんだ。見てもくれないの？ナナってお兄に心配されたこと一度もないな。逆はしょっちゅうなのに。
I didn't want to see anything anymore. I didn't want to think about anything.
ねえ、ナナミ。
I called out to the girl in front of me who might or might not be my sister.
お前が本物でも偽物でもどっちでもいいよ。
There was only one thing I wanted now.
僕を殺してくれないか。
Okay. Back at the hospital. Just outside the front lobby of AH Tokyo General Hospital, Yua Kusunoki was staring at what lay beyond the automatic door. Bon had told her to leave, so she had come outside, but she'd been too worried to go any further than that. Bon had disappeared up the stairs, chasing a mysterious figure. It had been less than 3 minutes, but she was looking into the lobby to see if he would come back. The fuck, Sane? After Bon had gone alone to the hospital, Yua had ignored Momose's warnings and gone after him. She needed to do whatever it would take to find out the truth about her sister's death and who had killed her. Somebody had sent Bond those threatening phone calls and kidnapped his partner, Sua. Whoever it was, they were probably the person who'd killed Mia. Something was telling her that, and so, when the urge had come to follow him, she couldn't fight it off. Despite all of his warnings that getting involved was dangerous, she'd come here anyway. Of course, now that she was here, there wasn't anything she could do. She was just a powerless teenage girl. Her hope had been that Bond would heroically catch the killer and then she'd have a chance to question him. Why did my little sister have to die? That was the question Yua wanted to ask most of all. She felt somebody looking at her. She glanced around nervously. The sun hadn't been down for more than 2 hours, but the hospital's front entrance was eerily silent. The after-hours entrance was right next to it. This was also where the emergency patients would be brought in, but there was nobody there. A train was passing by right alongside the hospital, but there were almost no cars on the wide street in front of it, and no pedestrians at all. This spot, between Shibuya and Shinjuku, two towns that never slept, was like a shadow born of two powerful lights. Whoever was looking at her, she couldn't find them. She put a hand on her chest and took a deep breath to calm her nervousness. Then, for no real reason, she looked toward the hospital wards. What the hell is this? A girl was standing there. The lights at the entrance to the wards were off, and it was hard to see, but for some reason, she could see the girl clearly against the darkness. Oh, wait a sec, is this Mia?
ミヤちゃん。
She whispered, knowing it was impossible, and yet unable to stay silent. The girl looked just like her. It looked just like her dead younger twin sister. She recognized the girl's outfit, too. It was her younger sister's clothes. She thought for a moment that it might be a ghost, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood up on end. The girl turned around and ran, heading toward the automatic door that marked the entrance to the hospital ward. When she got close, the door opened. So she wasn't a ghost then. Yua stood there for a moment, stunned, before starting to run after her. The wards must have been past lights out, because it was even quieter than the outside. Each step Yua took echoed far down the hallways. Just like the outside, the quiet was almost eerie. The girl disappeared up the stairs. She heard what sounded like a faint laugh. Bro, don't tell me they're gonna kill Yua too. Like, come on, bro. It was like a scene out of a horror movie, Yua thought to herself. She took a slow step up the stairs, and then another. She arrived at the second floor. She looked down the hallway, but there was nobody there. She wondered if maybe she was seeing things when... Nah, Bro, get the fuck out of there, dude, like right now. Just run the fuck away. She heard a girl's laugh from the floor above. The voice, the way she laughed, Yua knew them both well. Yua went up to the third floor, looked down the hallway, and saw a girl who looked just like her standing there. One of the victims in the first New Gen case, the group dive, her sister, who died 2 months ago. She was standing there, as real and solid as anything around her.
So.
Yua took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes, but when she put them back on, Mia was still there.
みやちゃんなの？どう思う？
The voice was far too clear to be a hallucination. There was a fearless smile on the girl's face. It was just like Yua remembered her. Mia was always like that. She always used to laugh in such a mocking way, so she could play the villain.
みやちゃん。本当に私がミヤであなたがユアだと思う？どういうこと？もし逆だったら？あなたはミヤ、死んだのはユア、殺したのはあなた。何を言っているの？あなたは親に愛される姉が疎ましくてネットで殺人を依頼したのよ。しかも自殺に見せかけるように見ず知らずの4人も一緒に飛び降りさせた。あなたは姉になりすまして妹の死を悲しみ涙を流しているふりをしながらこれまで姉が独占していた親の愛を手に入れて心の中ではほくそ笑んでいる。違うわ。私はユアよ。誰がそれを証明するの？私はユアのはず。でも確信が持てない。私を私だと証明するものって何？顔？名前？記憶？自分のことなのに。自分で自分を証明するなんて不可能よ。私がミヤだっていう可能性もあるの。あなたはいろいろと調べていたじゃない。多重人格、浮遊病、記憶捏造、それから妄想。
All the research Yua had done about how imperfect memories were and how easily they could be faked suddenly seemed truly real for the first time. She didn't know who she was. Who was she? Mia shook her head violently.
あなたは誰？
Yua, the girl who always played the goody two-shoes, who was automatically loved and praised by her parents? Mia, the girl who always played the bad girl, who actively sought out her parents' hate while being jealous of the affection they gave her older sister?
さあ、私も。
Mia, or maybe Yua, began to guide Yua, or maybe Mia. Without a sound, they began to walk.
私と同じ目に遭いなさい。
Yua and Mia, two identical twins, indistinguishable from each other. The boundary between them grew more and more indistinct. Okay. I guess maybe they're linked in kind of the same way that that Shogun and the Delusion Takumi are linked, I guess, maybe? The two buildings were two huge boxes standing in the darkness. But compared to the huge skyscrapers of Shinjuku next to them, they were like children looking up at grown-ups. The roof of the ward, that was where Mia had brought Yua. Bro, I just realized something. Mia, like me, and Yua, like you. Did they intend for it to be like that? Huh. There was a gap torn in a corner of the tall fence surrounding it, just big enough for a person to pass through. It wasn't clear who had made it, or why. Mia and Yua went through the gap and stood on the edge of the roof. In front of them was the outpatient building. It wasn't as tall as the building they were on, and they could see the garden below. But there were no lights there, and even if someone was there, Yua couldn't tell. The wind was blowing hard on the roof. The two girls' clothing and long, soft hair flapped violently as the wind blew into them.
私たちはもともと一つだったんだから。また戻るだけ。一歩を踏み出せば、あなたは私になる。
Yua's voice was monotone. Her eyes were empty. She spread out her hands to keep her balance against the violent winds. Mia was right next to her, spreading out her hands in the same way. She turned to Yua and laughed.
耐える必要なんてないよ。あなたは私の痛みを知らなくちゃならない。さあ、飛んで。そうすれば、私もあなたも同じ痛みを共有するわ。私はどっちなの？私？あなた？
You are the un-me, I am the real me.
それを聞いても意味はないわ。どっちにしたって、話は飛ぶ。
All hesitation disappeared from within her, and Yua went to take a step forward. A gunshot tore through the night air. Suddenly, Yua came back to her senses. She looked down beneath her and screamed. She saw how high up she was, and suddenly felt dizzy. She lost her balance and almost fell. She grabbed on desperately to the fence behind her, and just barely managed to avoid falling. The gunshot had come from the roof of the other building below her. She looked down at it again. She could just barely make out human figures in the middle of the rooftop garden. There were two of them. One was lying on the ground. The other was standing next to it.
Bansan.
Had the detective shot someone? Or had someone shot him?
何をしてるの？どうして私と同じ痛みを味わおうとしないの？そんなの卑怯よ。ずるいわ。みやちゃん。違うわ。私はユアよ。ユアは私。ミヤはあなた。あなたは一体何なの？私はあなたの望んだもの。あなたは私の望んだもの。
Mia leapt at her. She wrapped her hands around Yua's neck. Yua felt incredible pressure on her throat. She couldn't breathe. Mia was no ghost. There was a real, physical body in front of her, and it was strangling her.
お願い、死んでよ。今日ぐらい私のお願いを聞いて。いつも我慢してきたんだから。
Yua's vision turned red. Her hands flailed through the air, but she couldn't grab onto anything. She was going to die here. In the face of this overwhelming fear, Yua used every muscle in her whole body to push back against Mia with a strength she didn't even know she had. But Mia was strong. She didn't budge at all. Now even Yua's thoughts were turning red. Her mind felt like it was being covered in sticky, red blood. She shook her head violently, and her glasses fell off. Now from the outside, you couldn't tell who was who. Whoever won could be whoever they wanted to. If Yua died, Mia could become Yua. If Mia died, Yua could become Mia. Yua felt a growing sense of resignation within her. In front of her was the face of Mia, or perhaps Yua, blurred with hatred. She looked away, not wanting to see it. With red eyes and red vision, she saw one of the flower beds and the flowers on the rooftop garden. It felt like there was a strange shadow mixed in with them. Maybe her eyes were playing tricks on her without her glasses. But now she couldn't even breathe. She felt a tiny sense of peace working its way through the pain. Part of her thought that maybe it would be okay to give up, but her survival instincts made her reject the peace she felt. Yua reached out toward the strange shadow. The planter was at least 2 meters away. It was far too far away for her hand to reach. But she felt something cold and hard in her hand. She grabbed it, almost unconsciously. And then her fading consciousness became clear again, as if a fog had lifted. A powerful, invisible shockwave shook the air. Red lights, like flower petals, danced in the sky, and her twin sister was knocked away. Yua coughed and staggered to her feet, then looked down in awe at the item in her hand. It was a sword, so dazzling and elegant, so pure, so delicate and fragile, and so beautiful, it brought you to tears. The thing in her hands, the first thing it reminded her of was the sword she'd told Bon about, the one she'd seen Ayase holding in the tunnel.
今のは何？
Mia crawled out of the planter that the shockwave had knocked her into. She was holding her head in pain.
あなたは何をしたの？
She got a D-sword, dude.
私はミヤちゃん、私やっとわかったわ。どうしてここまで一生懸命あなたの死の真相を調べていたのか。私を殺そうとしたの？私はまた殺されるところだったの？また？結局私はあなたが怖かったのよ。当てつけに死なれたと思ったの。あなたがわからなかったの。あなたが死んだ理由は私のせいじゃないって証明して安心したかった。最低のお姉ちゃんね。どうして死んでくれないのよ。
There was no sense in talking to her anymore. 2 hearts that had once been one were now completely separate, never to rejoin again. Mia came at her once more. Yua remembered the pain she'd felt just a moment ago, and shivered in terror. There was a flash. The sword in her hand curved in a sharp arc. It sliced the ghost in 2. Mia froze. She had a stunned expression on her face. She ran her hands along the wound, which ran from her left side to her right shoulder. There was no blood.
ミヤちゃんは2ヶ月前に死にました。それならあなたは誰なんですか？
Large particles big enough to see with the naked eye began to appear around Mia's body. Her body began to bubble and gradually fall apart. its outlines fading away. And then it transformed into something else. Yua looked on in shock. In Mia's place appeared a fat man. He was wearing a denim shirt and filthy jeans and had a backpack on his back. It was a man she'd never seen.
誰？あなた誰？どうしてミヤちゃんの姿に？どうやって？
Confused, Yua began to step backwards, the D-sword still in her hand. The man hadn't expected her to see him, it appeared, and he was beginning to panic himself.
お前こそなんで？まさかこのガキギガロマニアックスか？聞いてないぞ！くそ、どうしたら。
The object was almost perfectly level as it flew at him, as if gravity didn't exist. By the time he turned around, it had already stabbed itself into the backpack he was carrying. A pale flash of light came from the backpack. He went perfectly stiff, as if hit by an electric shock. His eyes rolled back into his head, and he fell forward on his face. He was foaming at the mouth, and his body was twitching. The thing that had struck his backpack, it was a beautiful curved sword, like the one that Yua had just grabbed from the air. That's Senna, isn't it?
これ
Yua recognized the weapon. She'd seen it once before. Someone was coming closer. Yua looked up. She saw someone appear out of the darkness.
何事かと思ったらこんな騒ぎになっていたのね。
Okay, so it's not Senna, it's Ayase. Oh yeah, that's right. Senna's D-sword looks different. Okay.
岸本さん
Ayase gave Yua's sword a single, expressionless glance.
感じる大いなる意志を。私がこの病院に居続けた意味はこういうことだったんだわ。
Yua had fallen to the ground in shock. Ayase picked up Yua's glasses off the roof and offered them to her, taking a knee to look down at her face. Her slender fingers gently stroked Yua's hair as she put the glasses on her face.
君もグラジオールの黒騎士だったのね。
Her smile was weak and fragile.
僕を殺してくれないか。
Okay, so now we know what, 4 of the knights? Because we know Senna, Ayase, Kazupi, and now Yua, I guess. And then I guess maybe Delusion Takumi? I don't know if he's considered a knight or not. Anyway, back to Delusion Takumi's mental breakdown here. Nanami's face tensed up, but she quickly forced a fake smile.
お兄、つまんない冗談やめなよ。
That wasn't how Nanami would react. Instead of laughing it off, the real Nanami would yell, "That's not funny," and then I'd be in for a long lecture. Not that it mattered anyway. It didn't matter. If this Nanami wasn't going to kill me, then I wasn't interested in her at all. She could disappear right now and I wouldn't care. Seraton and I stared into each other's eyes. If Seraton was 3D, she'd grant my wish. I knew. If I didn't exist anyway, why couldn't I be 2D instead?
ねえ、そんな冗談は置いといて、その話があるんだ。あのね、お兄にもらったバングル、なくしちゃったの。どうせ適当に扱ってたんだろうとか言わないでね。ナナ、そんなことしてないもん。本当に大切にしてたもん。なのに、どこでなくしたのかもわかんなくて。
She actually cared about that thing? How stupid. From my perspective, it was the stupidest thing in the world. It was a present from me, wasn't it? Nothing I gave somebody could have any value at all.
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
How could I be sure I'd even given it to her? Maybe the fact that I'd given it to her at all was just a delusion too. This whole world was worthless. Everything in my memories was worthless.
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
お兄が初めてくれたプレゼントだったのにな。なんでなくしちゃったりしたんだろう。
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
お兄、聞いてる？
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
お兄はどうしていつもそうなの？
Her head slumped forward. She clenched her fists tightly. Nanami's whisper was soft.
たまにはお兄ちゃんらしく頼りがいのあるとこ見せてよ。
What? You're asking the wrong person for help. I'm just a delusion.
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
I stared at Seraton's smile, making sure to not let myself see anything else. There was no reason to listen to Nanami's words. There was no point. I was just a delusion.
今までずっとナナがしっかりしなきゃって思って頑張ってきたけど、でもね、やっぱりナナだってたまには 誰かに甘えたいよ。誰かにじゃなくてお兄に甘えたいよ。
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
だってお兄はナナのお兄なんだから。お兄に頼りたいって思うことナナにもあるんだよ。
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
そりゃいつもああしろこうしろ言われてお兄も嫌だろうけど、それはお兄がだらしないから仕方なく。言いたいことはそういうことじゃなくて。
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
ナナだっていろいろ愚痴を聞いてもらいたい時とか泣きたい時とかあるんだよ。お兄に優しくしてもらいたい時とかあるんだよ。
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
ねえお兄、ナナの話聞いてよ。ナナ、今すごく悲しいんだよ。お兄にもらった大切なバングルなくなっちゃって、声出して泣きたいくらい悲しくて辛くて、お兄に抱きしめてほしいのに、お兄に頭撫でて慰めてほしいのに。ねえお兄、今日だけはナナのわがまま受け止めてよ。
I slowly looked up and saw Nanami crying. She was trying to hold back the tears, but they were falling from her eyes anyway. Man. Rimi Sakihata shivered as she opened the glass door and came inside what looked like a lobby. A freezing chill came up from the floor. There was no sign of anyone nearby. Given the location, that was only natural, but knowing what waited ahead, Rimi still wished there was at least one person there. In front of her was a soundproof door like you'd see at a movie theater. There was a chill coming from the gap between it and the floor, and a white fog like dry ice. Rimi bit down hard on her lip. She was holding her D-sword in both hands. She'd already real booted it.
だから大丈夫。だから怖がっちゃダメだ。
Rimi told herself this as forcefully as she could. Then she took one last big breath before pushing open the door with her shoulder. Her eyes went wide when she saw what was inside. It was a device, impossibly huge and monstrous. The room was dome-like, with the device at its center. There was a faint, eerie sound that echoed throughout the huge space. It was low, like a beast roaring. The sound meant the device was running.
の圧もう動いてるんだ。
君のおかげですよ。
A voice answered her. When she heard it, she felt terror in her very soul.
崎畑リミ。1年半ぶりですね。
I think we saw this guy like once before. Rimi's instincts were screaming in terror. Her heart started to pound and her body began to shake. Terrible memories assaulted her mind. Her dark past was threatening to come back. She shook her head gently and gripped the D-sword to give herself strength, then turned toward the direction of the voice. The huge device, Noah 2, and next to it was a tall man in a suit, and...
ナナちゃん
Nanami Nishijo was being held there. A torn uniform, a bloody bandage on her right hand, a limp, slumped head. She was terribly pale. Okay, so there's two Nanamis, I guess. I don't know, this seems to be a thing with the Gigalomaniacs. It's like there's two of each of them. It's weird. I mean, like two Yuas, two Takumis, now two Nanamis. Actually, we even saw the two different ISAs as well, remember? Nanami was struck wordless at the sight. Like Jesus, nailed to the cross. No, it wasn't a cross that held her captive. It was a terrible, almost malicious shape. All the evil in the world. All the chaos in the world. All the wickedness in the world. It was all of these things and more.
君がこの1年半どこで何をしていたかについて興味はありませんが、困りますね。あまりうろちょろされると。
The man, Genichi Norose, had a calm voice, but there was a knife-like edge to it. Rimi forced herself to stand tall and glare at him.
ナナちゃんを離して。
ほう。まさかここに来たのはお友達を助けに来たという理由ですか？
ナナちゃんを離して。その子は何も関係ないでしょ。
では直接話してみてはどうですか？
Rimi was caught off guard by Norose's offer. She was trying her best to stand strong, but the second she'd seen his face, her legs had started to shake. She called out to Nanami without moving from where she stood.
ナナちゃん
Nanami's head suddenly moved. Her closed eyes opened just a little. She looked up. Her empty eyes stared at Rimi.
リミさん大丈夫今助けてあげるから
In the middle of her sentence, Nanami's face began to twist in pain. Her face was pale and her breathing was ragged.
痛いよ右手が痛いの
And then her body fell from the cross.
ナナちゃんねえリミさん
Nanami was lying on the ground, only her head moving. It was as if she was looking for something.
ナナのバングル知らないかな見つからなくてナナのバングルどこにもなくて
She stood up slowly and began to search her surroundings with her left hand.
バングルだね分かった私知ってるからだから私と一緒にここを出よう病院に行こうね手が痛いよナナはなんでリミさんのことを知ってるんだっけ前にどこで会ったんだっけリミさんなのリミさんがナナのバングル嘘どうしてひどいよ
Rimi realized that something was wrong with Nanami and turned her eyes toward Norose. He smirked as he silently watched their conversation.
ナナちゃんに何を見せてるの
Nanami's gaze was locked on Rimi. She slowly staggered to her feet, like a newborn fawn. She reached her right arm toward Rimi. The bandage was soaked with blood. It looked like her hand was still attached. But bright red drops, one after another, were falling from it. A pool of blood was forming at her feet. She needed medical treatment fast. But despite her hurry, Rimi couldn't get any closer. Getting closer to Nanami meant getting closer to the man next to her. Rimi almost cried out of sheer frustration.
リミさんが持ってたのナナちゃん帰ろうこっちに来てどうして持ってくの返してナナのバングル返して落ち着いてナナちゃんお兄からもらったナナの大切なあれは誰にも渡したくないの返してよナナちゃん返して
A pained scream. A drop of blood fell from Nanami's wrist. The drop crystallized before it hit the ground. Something that looked like mineral ore appeared out of nowhere around it. Like some kind of inorganic shell had burst through a hole in space. The crystal and ore instantly fused into a single shape. It seemed far more like a cross than the thing which had been holding Nanami. Or maybe a sword, stabbing straight downward, rejecting everything around it.
これはディソード。返してよ。お願い。
Nanami held the sword to her chest, embracing it. Her tears of sorrow fell on it, and it began to flash crimson, like a beating heart.
でないとリミさんのこと許さない。そんなナナちゃんもキガロマニアックスだったの。今日だけはナナのわがまま受け止めてよ。
All right, I think we're gonna stop here for tonight. Oh man. Okay, so, I do have, programming while listening. This was fun despite being super busy. Are you like programming for work or? Anyway, so tomorrow I have, orchestra practice scheduled, but there's a possibility that they will cancel tomorrow due to the weather. So, oh, for university? Okay. That's cool. So I would not count on a stream tomorrow, but if they do cancel the rehearsal tomorrow, then I should be able to stream. It will be God of War again, if I do stream tomorrow. And then Tuesday, I am not going to be able to stream that day. So, either next time I see y'all again will either be tomorrow if my rehearsal gets canceled, or Wednesday. So that's what's happening this week. Either way, it'll be God of War, whether it's Monday or Wednesday. So, yeah, I will. I'll see y'all either tomorrow or in 3 days then. So, yeah. Have a good night.